This conference will now be recorded.
So, hi all, good morning, good evening. So, welcome to the day one session of performance testing with JMeter Beginner to Master and with Groovy Scripting as well as integrated with Dynatrace. So, we had the demo session on Friday. Hope you all enjoyed the demo session and you got to evaluate our sessions. So, we'll begin with our next session today. So, as I was telling in the previous session, performance testing is all about speed, scalability, and reliability, right? So I gave you some pointers about how the application performance is impacted, where we can uh, direct ourselves to the performance testing and all, right? So let me share my screen and we'll discuss. So whenever you are having any queries, kindly unmute yourself and please ask your query. Yeah. So we had seen the introduction to the performance testing, right? So now coming to the next thing is the performance testing life cycle. So how a performance testing project is conducted. Okay. So there are different phases, right? So we have software development life cycle, we have software testing life cycle. Similarly, specifically to performance testing also, we have performance testing life cycle. So there are different phases in this performance testing life cycle, and they will fit into either a waterfall model or a agile model. So you don't have to be bothered about different phases again for different models of software development. So the first phase is the requirement gathering phase. Okay. Then the second phase is test plan and design. Next one, test execution. Then test results analysis. And then test reporting and sign off. Okay, so these are the five major phases in performance testing. So requirement gathering, as the name suggests, what will we do? We'll gather the requirements. So is it only requirements or there are other activities which we will do? We'll see in the further slides. Okay, and then the test plan and design. So once you have gathered the requirements, once you have gathered the scenarios, the next phase is that you will develop your test scripts, right? You have to develop your test scripts, you have to come up with your test strategy, you have to come up with your test plan, and you will develop your test scripts. Okay, now that you have developed the test scripts, and let's assume that your test plan or test strategy is approved, so you can now proceed for the test execution phase. So in test execution, you are basically going to do the execution. Clear? And then the test results analysis. So what do you do over here? You will, whatever tests you have executed, you will collect the results for that. Collect means gather. Okay, you will gather the results and you will do the analysis of those results, whether your results are meeting your requirements or not. Based on that, you have to prepare your test report, right? So the next phase is the test reporting and sign off. Now let us see each of these phases in detail. Yeah. Any queries anyone till now? Any queries? So requirement gathering phase. First, application understanding. So guys, you are deployed into a project. Okay. You are deployed into a project, and in that project, you will definitely work on some applications. Now, the functional testing team will go through the software requirement specification document, the business requirement document, all those documents, and also they will discuss or connect with the different development team members or the business users or any other stakeholders to understand the application, and they will write the test cases. But they will have to understand the application in detail, right? Because they have to cover each and every functionality, as well as the positive scenarios and the negative scenarios. But is all of that required for a performance test engineer? Definitely we have to also understand the application, right? Because if we do not understand the application, we will not be able to develop our test script. We will not be able to understand the test data requirement. So for every testing, test data is required, right? Now for functional testing, they can do with less amount of test data, because they will test different scenarios but with a single user only. So few amount of test data will do. But for a performance testing, we are going to do the test with 100 users, 200 users, 1000 users, 5000 users, 10,000 users, based on the requirement. Now, if the number of users is so huge, the test data requirement will also be huge, right? So, in order to have no challenges, okay, during the test script design or test execution phase, we need to understand the test data requirement also. So for that, you have to understand the application. So now, how will you understand the application? So you will understand the application also by going through the different documents first, okay? And if you have any queries, please reach out to the functional testing team members or the developers, okay, or the business analyst, and you understand the application which is in your scope for performance testing. But you do not have to understand the application in details, guys, okay? Because remember one thing, in performance testing, we do not test negative scenarios. Very important, guys. If someone asks you in the interview, are you going to test negative scenarios in performance testing? The answer is no, because for us the objective is to verify the performance, not the functionality, and it is already done by some other team. So we are only going to test the positive scenario or happy path scenario. Both are used in conjunction with each other, okay? Happy path scenario or positive scenario. So you will understand the application based on that. Clear, all of you? Next, now that you have understood the application, okay, the objective is to identify the scope. What scope will be there for performance testing, right? What scope will be there for performance testing? Because the application could be huge, the number of scenarios could be huge, but are you going to test all the scenarios during performance testing? The answer is no. So then the next question is, which all scenarios will be tested during performance testing? Or more technically we say, which are the candidates for performance testing? So one more interview question, guys. How will you determine which all scenarios will be in scope of performance testing? Very important. Interview question is, how will you determine which all scenarios will be in scope of performance testing? So the answer is the scenarios, okay, the scenarios which are frequently used in the application. Okay, now what is frequently used means, now you all also would have used so many different web applications. I'm not asking about working in a project. Instead of working in a project, also in our real life, we use so many different applications, right? May it be on mobile, may it be on web browser. So let's say, for example, an e-commerce application. Now in an e-commerce application, there is, like, you log in, right? Registration option is there, login is there, and then you then go for the different product categories, or you search for the different product categories. Then if you select anything, you add them to the cart. Once you add them to the cart, then you go and place that order. If you don't like, sometimes you cancel a order which is already placed, right? And apart from these also, there are other sections like frequently asked questions, contact us, right? So there are so many different functionalities in an application. Now, are all of them going to be used? So do you think people would be using the frequently asked question section, or do you think people will every time go and have contact us? The answer is no, right? Similarly, my orders is another section. Will people frequently, or the will users frequently go over there and see my orders? Also, with reference to booking a or placing a order also, if we see, search functionality is used most of the times, because it doesn't guarantee that every time an user goes and logs into the application and searches for a product, he or she will place the order for that product. No, people search the products many a times, right? And also from the product categories also, there will be specific product categories which will be frequently used by the users, right? So that is why it is very important to understand which are the scenarios which are going to be frequently used by the users in production. Remember, very important, the scenarios which are going to be frequently used by the users in production will be candidates for performance testing. Next, mission critical. The scenarios which are critical for the business function. Okay, means business function means whatever is the main objective of that application. An e-commerce application means products, booking of or placing order of products, and cancelling the orders, right? Searching of the products. So these are the major scenarios, and these scenarios should work completely fine, because if these scenarios are not working and contact us is working, frequently asked question is working, my orders is working, my profile or my account is working, there's no point in using that application, right? No one will use that application if the major functionalities are not working. Okay, so the scenarios which are important for the application in order to meet its business functionality are known as the mission critical scenarios. Clear, all of you? So interview question, which scenarios will be in scope of performance testing, or which scenarios will be candidates for performance testing? Your answer should be frequently used by users in production, or going to be used by users in production, and mission critical scenarios. People will ask you, if my application is completely new, right, then how will I know which of my scenarios are frequently used in production? So what will you say in interview? The answer should be, based on our experience of the use of that application or domain of that application, we would also be able to determine which are the frequently used applications, but our main objective will be to discuss with the business user and business analyst. Okay, our major objective will be to discuss with the business users and business analyst to understand which all scenarios they are developing are going to be frequently used in production. Okay, similarly, mission critical. So in order to determine the PT candidates, performance testing needs to discuss with business analyst, needs to discuss with business users, solution architect, development team, okay, to understand which all scenarios are going to be in scope. Okay, it's very important, guys. Next, NFRs. Now, in the previous slide, right? In the previous session, I had given you some hints about the NFRs, like how the non-functional requirements will look like. The application shall be able to handle at least 1000 transactions per second. Response time should be less than 2 seconds. Applications shall support 2000 concurrent users. So these are the different kind examples of NFRs. Okay. So our another objective in this phase is that we should get the finalized and approved NFRs. NFRs are non-functional requirements. Okay. Now, who will give you these NFRs? Important question, right? Who will give you these NFRs? These NFRs will be given by the business analysts. Okay. These NFRs will be given by the business analysts to you. And always remember that the NFRs which are being given to you should be finalized and approved. Okay. Now, once you get the NFRs, at that initially when you get the NFRs at that stage, they may not be finalized. They may not be approved by the business users, by the solution architect, right? So once you get the NFRs, maybe it is a draft version also. What are you going to do? What is your responsibility? You need to do the static testing of NFRs. Okay, you need to do the static testing. Now, what is static testing? Very important. Nobody will teach you this, guys. Static testing of NFRs. Rarely you would have heard. Okay. So static testing means you get the NFRs. Now you are going to analyze that, right? You are going to analyze that. You are going to review that, whether all those NFRs are meeting your requirements or not, right? Whatever you have understood about the application, whatever you have understood which are the scenarios which will be going to be PPT candidates, now based on the NFRs, whatever is given to you, you will analyze and get to know whether those requirements are clear, whether,
Chandra,
yeah,
can you please explain this NFR once again? What is this
yeah,
FNR?
NFR is non-functional requirement. Now for functional testing, you get the requirement. Means how will be the functional requirement? The application, the user should be able to log in into the application. The user
Yes,
should be able to register on the application if the user is a new user. So those are functional requirements, right?
correct.
That the application functionality is described in those requirements.
Yes.
But these are non-functional requirements. So as I told you, in performance testing, we are going to see speed, measure speed, scalability,
Oh, okay,
reliability.
okay,
So these
okay.
NFRs will revolve around those. So I have given the example in the demo session, like what the NFRs will look like. Like the response time of the different application screens should be less than 2 seconds. See, the application screen will open. When the user logs in, he should be able to land on the landing page. That will be a functional requirement, right? But within how much time the user should be present on the landing page, that is a non-functional requirement or a PT requirement. Similarly, when the user is searching a product and ordering that product, he should be able to successfully do that. So those are transactions, right? So functionally it is mentioned that he should be able to do that. But how many transactions should happen in an hour? Or how many transactions should happen in a day? Or how many transactions should happen per second? Because when so many users are accessing the application concurrently, there will be so many transactions happening, right? So what is the expectation? And the server will have the certain capacity. They can process certain number of requests, right? And based on their computability, they will be able to process those requests, right? So based on that only the application will be able to handle those many requests. Now why we get 503 service temporarily unavailable issue? Either the server is down or you are not able to access the resource of the application. So these are the different kind of NFRs. So your objective in this phase is also to gather the non-functional requirements. Now who will give you the non-functional requirements? Important question. The business analyst will give you the non-functional requirements. Okay, I was telling about static testing. So once you get the NFRs, you will analyze those NFRs. Okay, if any information is missing from those NFRs, like response time information, user load information, TPS, transactions per second information, okay, server side utilization information, if those different informations are missing from the NFRs, you will raise them with the business analyst. Okay, you will raise them as queries to the business analyst. The business analyst will then go back and come back with the resolution of your queries. Now many times what will happen, you will be working in a brand new application, a project in which a brand new application is being developed. Okay, and the business analyst comes and says to you that we do not have any NFRs. I'm not sure how to design the NFRs. Or what do you mean by NFRs? There are cases. Okay, ideally the business analyst should know that those things, should be able to document the NFRs for you, but you will get these questions, real-time experience. Okay, so in that case, what will be your approach? So you all are part of a team, right? You all need to be a good team player. So in that case, what will you do? You will discuss with the business analyst. You will discuss with the business users. You will make them understand that what is a non-functional requirement. You will give some examples, okay, that your application is going to be accessed in the production. How fast you want the application to be, okay, how many transactions should happen, like the way you discussed with the business users, business analysts to get the scenarios, to get the PT candidates. Similarly, we will discuss about the NFRs. Okay, and this will go on, right? You will discuss, they will come up with the NFRs, you will again review them, you will provide your feedback, and they will again come back with their answers. So at the end, you will have a finalized version of NFR, which is approved by the project stakeholder. So in the requirement gathering phase, that is another objective, to get the finalized and approved version of NFRs. Next activity, guys, you will also get, your also objective is to get the information about the production environment. Okay, the production environment where the application is going to be used by the users in production. So you need to understand what is the specification of the production environment. So if you are already, if you are working in a project in which the application is already there in production, so you need to gather the details of the existing production environment. Now, if you are working in a project where the application has not gone live, it is a brand new application. In that case also, the solution architect would have already designed, they would already have a design in mind that how will the production servers look like, what will be their hardware specification. So in that case, what you need to do? You need to request for the specification of the to be production environment also. Remember guys, very important things. Okay, you need to get the specifications of the to be production environment also. Why are you collecting these things? Why are you collecting? You are collecting because you will also request the environment team for a performance test environment. Clear? You're going to ask the environment team for a performance test environment. And why did we ask about production? Because your performance test environment specifications should be similar to production. Very important point. Okay, your performance test environment should be similar to production. Why, guys? Why? Because you are going to do the performance testing. You are going to say how the application performance will be with the different requirements which you have got. Now, if the environment is higher than production, then you will get very good results in your performance test environment. But when it goes to production, the results will not be that good because your performance test environment is higher than production, but which is rarely will happen, okay, in the project. But if your this one performance test environment is lower than production as far as the specifications are concerned, in that case your results whatever you are going to get, that will not match the performance of in the production, right? This production is having a higher specification. Then what is the point of doing the testing if you are not able to get the numbers similar to production? Then there is no point of doing the testing. That is why you should always ask for a performance test environment close to production. Okay. Any queries, guys? I'll take a pause here. Any queries on requirement gathering till now?
Sir, I have one query. Suppose my application in production environment, and right now suppose 4,000 user is using that application, and I am arranging one a festival offer for my application, but I don't know how much user will attend that festival offer. So how I can calculate the load on my application?
Very good. Very good question. Definitely you will not be able to know. But the business user, okay, the domain experts in your project, okay, they will be able to know that. They will be able to predict that. Okay, or they will be able to at least tell you that we are targeting this many users. We are targeting these many users. You let us know whether our application is will be able to handle that many users or not. Beyond that number, we are not worried. But we are worried that we should be able to cater to these many number of users. Okay, and you will get that information.
Okay. So we are for, taking some tolerance for that.
Yeah, definitely. You need to take some tolerance for that, and see what. And one advice is whatever numbers they give to you, you test with some more number of users. Let's say they tell you that you said like normally it was being used at 4,000, right? And let's say they give you the number as 8,000. Yeah. So you do the test with 10,000
Okay, okay,
or 9,000, so that you are also on a safer side,
okay, fine.
right? Yeah. Any other queries, anyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Can you just repeat scope identification one time, sir?
One by one, please. Yeah, please tell me.
Scope identification.
Yes, scope identification. What is the question?
Can you just repeat one more time, sir?
Okay, okay. Scope identification. Scope identification means, as I told you, the application will have so many functionalities, right? The application which you are going to test, that will have so many functionalities. But this the scenarios, all the functionalities will not be in scope of performance testing. Okay, why? Because performance testing is for those scenarios which more number of users will access. Because if the volume is low, there is no point in doing in a performance. Remember guys, let's say there is an application. Only in production, only 5 to 10 users will use that application. Do you think performance testing is required? You can do one round of test or three rounds of test with that figure, or like 200% or 300% of that figure, and you can confirm that yes, the application is working fine with these specifications and all. So the point is, if the application is having so many scenarios or so many functionalities, it will not be possible for you to test all the functionalities first. Also, it is not advisable to test all the functionalities, because all the functionalities are not going to be used by the users in production. So you need to determine which are the candidates for performance testing. Now, in your scope, both scenarios as well as NFRs come. Means basically, what is your scope? What is the scope of performance testing in your project? That is your objective to find out. So what will be your scope? The scenarios which will be going to be tested and the requirements which you are going to test, right? That will be your scope. And in performance testing, what are the different types of tests you will do? But that will come to know later. Okay. Any queries further?
Yeah, hi sir. In
Yeah.
the production,
Yeah.
uh, if it is a 5,000 users in a performance environment, will it be tested 100% or what is the limit, sir?
Yes. Now, very good question. In production, you said the number of users is 5,000. Now, my question is whether that is my peak load or that is my normal load. So, you are my customer. You told me, and I am working as a performance testing engineer in your project. Okay. So, you are telling me my application uses 5,000 users in production. Okay. So, I will ask you that what is the means, do you think more number of users will also come and use your application, or that is the maximum limit? So I'm trying to get the information, what is my normal load or average load, and what is my peak load. Like someone else was asking, there is a sale and normally let's say it is being used by 4,000 users, so definitely during a sale I'll expect more number of users. Okay, so you will ask that question to the business users, to the business analyst, that what is the peak load they are expecting. Okay, and if they are not able to give that information, as performance test consultants, you suggest that okay, this is your average load, so we'll do the test with 200% of that load or 300% of that load, because you will also have some idea, right, based on the domain of the application. Okay, this is this kind of application, so maybe people will be more and they will use this application more. Now, very good example nowadays, Chat GPT, right? That is in news all over the world, and it so many users are accessing it that many users are also not able to access that because of performance. The application is able to handle certain number of users only. Clear?
Chandra, I have a question. This is regarding the data which we have in the lower environment,
Yeah.
and we have to do this load testing in lower environment, but we don't have the data as compared to the production. So in this case,
Data means volume of data
volume
or
of data, yes, volume
volume
of
of
data.
data.
For
Yeah.
example, we don't have these many of user in the lower environment, so we cannot
Hmm.
execute. For example, we have to execute the APIs,
Hmm.
but we don't have these many of users as compared to the production. So in this
Hmm.
case, how we can simulate this with help of
Yeah.
JMeter?
So through JMeter, what you do, you there will be a scenario in which you can create the users, right? There will be an
Yeah.
API for that.
Yes.
So what you
Yes.
do, using that API you develop a script. Okay,
Hmm.
because manually it will not be possible, right? Means it will be possible but it will consume a lot of time from you. So what
Yes.
you do, you develop a script for creating those users, and before your test execution you run that script as per your requirement, that let's say with every iteration you are able to create one user, you run it for 100 iterations if your requirement is for 100 users, and
Okay.
then you have given the test data, so your users is created, then you go for your test execution.
You mean same action with the different multiple users?
No. Your user creation is part of your test data. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
before running your actual test you run this particular script and your users are created, right? Whatever test data you have given, similar then in your test execution you just use that test data file, and and because now those users are valid users,
Hmm.
okay, and you can run the test. You don't have to, during your actual test execution you don't have to again create the users. Clear? There is
Okay.
also a setup in JMeter, which is the, like we have the main thread group, then we have the setup thread group. In the setup thread group will be executed before the main thread group. Okay, so that option also you can take, which we will see during our classes on JMeter on thread group.
Okay. Okay.
Before that, I wanted to explain in details about the performance. So I'm explaining this because some of you would have already worked on a performance testing project, but some of you would be completely new to performance testing also. So once you get this overall understanding how a performance testing project runs, because you will get interview questions on these also. So I'm discussing the interview questions as well, which you can expect, okay, from the performance testing life cycle. Clear, all of you? Any other questions?
Yeah, Chandra, for an implementation project, for the first time I'm going to implement the project. So when we have to do this performance testing, once it moves to the UAT or before UAT, we need to start doing this performance testing.
Definitely before UAT. Also, you propose to the customer that we still further want to shift left and do an early performance testing, so that you get to know now the application is completely developed, the functionality testing is done, STSIT is done, then you go for performance testing, and if you find any major issues, then you are going to delay the production, right? So suggest that we will do still early, so that we can identify the early defects and they can be fixed. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other queries? So now let us go to the challenges. Now in our projects, okay, everything is not smooth, right? For every activity you might face challenges. Now in requirement gathering also there will be different challenges you will face on the activities which we discussed. I'll discuss some major challenges, guys. Okay, the major challenges is that it will be, many times it is difficult to get the finalized scope. Many times it is difficult to get the finalized NFRs from the project. Okay, because many times people do not want to means they want to delay the approval process, because once you approve you are now accountable, right? If the project manager or the business user or the solution architect has approved and later something doesn't go right, the accountability comes to them, right? So it is difficult many times to get the finalized scope, finalized NFRs. Now the question will be, should I wait until I get that? No, you should not wait, because the project should go on, the activities should not be delayed. So along with that, you still keep on having the discussions. You have the discussions, and from those discussions also you will be able to come up, right? That okay, this is what they are expecting, right? So you continue the work, but also follow up for the finalized scope and NFRs, because let's say you have done your test executions also and then they come up and say that no, I want to make some changes in the NFR, then all the effort whatever you have given, that is gone, right? So that is why getting the NFRs, getting the scope early in the testing life cycle is helpful. The next challenge which we or normally face also is to get a performance test environment similar to production. Okay, many times what happens, it is difficult to get a test environment which is close to production. Okay, in that case also your ask should always be to get an environment close to production, or else your results will not correlate to production. Clear all of you? Next, the next phase is the test plan and design phase. Now let us go through the activities. So now that you have understood what is your scope, you have understood what is your non-functional requirement, you have understood about the specifications of the to be production environment. So your next job is to come up with the test strategy and test plan. Okay, test strategy and test plan. So test strategy is a brief document, test plan is a very detailed document. In some projects they only create a test plan, but in some projects they create a test strategy as well as a test plan. So what all will be the different sections in that? Basically the project scope from performance testing point of view. Okay, what is your scope? Scope means what all different types of tests you are going to do. What are the scenarios which are in scope? What are the non-functional requirements? Then map your different type of tests with your non-functional requirement. So that will be your traceability metrics. Okay. So this is the type scope. Then once the scope is there, what you will do? You will do the workload design. You will document the workload design model in the test plan. You will document the description of the different types of test, your test data requirement, your approach for performance test, then your environment details, right? Your RESI metrics like responsibility, accountability, consulted, informed, which roles in the project are responsible for what, accountable for what, consulted for what, informed for what, your test schedule, then the RAID log, risks, assumptions, issues, dependencies, right? So all these things you will document in your test plan. What is the entry criteria for performance testing? What is the exit criteria for performance testing? Okay, so these all things you are going to document in your test plan. Now once you have documented, so it will take good amount of time guys, okay, to document a test plan, and you should properly analyze the architecture, you should properly analyze the scope, and accordingly you should come up with your test plan, because if you do not plan properly you will not meet your end goal. So test plan creation is an important activity. You need to invest good amount of time on that and prepare your test plan. Okay, so once the test plan is created, what are you going to do? You need to get it reviewed with your peers. Peers means your team members or your test lead. Get it internally reviewed. Clear all of you? Whatever test plan or test strategy you have created, please get it internally reviewed first. Now once you get it internally reviewed, you will get some feedback, you will get some review comments. Okay, so you once you get those review comments in, you incorporate those review comments in the test plan, and then do a walkthrough with the project stakeholders. Clear all of you? You do the walkthrough with the project stakeholders and then request for approval from them on the test plan document, on the performance test plan test strategy. Clear all of you? Next, you need to come up with your test data approach. See, as I told you, test data is very critical from performance testing point of view. You need huge test data. Now, what is the definition of huge? Huge. It will depend on your application. It will depend on your requirement. Some users will do the test with 500 users. Some projects will need the test to be done with 10,000 users. Now when the user load is so different, the test data requirement will also be different. So you need to come up with a proper test data approach. Now the test data requirement, as I was answering another question few minutes back, you need to determine how you can create that test data. For test data, you need to consult your functional testing team members, business analysts, if you have any query regarding valid test data. So as I was telling you, we are only going to do the positive scenarios test in performance testing. We need not bother about the negative test data. We only should be worried about the positive scenario test data. Okay, so how to create that test data, what is a valid test data, all those things you need to understand from the functional testing team, the business analyst, the business users, the development team, and come up with your test data approach. So test data approach means basically how you are going to create the test data for your performance tests. Now if you have a separate team in your project, okay, if you have a separate team in your project who is concerned with test data creation, you provide your requirements to them and you get the test data from them. Now if the test data creation team is not there, you have to take up that activity, and wherever possible try to automate that. Now for example, we are discussing users creation. I need, let's say, 100 users or 200 users for my scenario. Now those 200 users that I need to be created, right? Now you can create that manually also by creating one user one by one. But if that can be developed in JMeter also or any other tool also, that scenario, you just develop that and you run that, so that it will save a lot of time for you. And performance tests are repeated, right? So every time you have to create some new test data. So if you automate the process, it will be helpful for you. So you should always have the objective to automate the test data creation. Clear, all of you? Then the test environment setup. Now you had requested for the performance test environment to the environment team in the requirement gathering phase. Now let's say you got the environment, the performance test environment. So you should now set up the environment. Now how can you set up the environment? Basically the environment team will provide the performance test environment to you and they are going to set it up. Okay, it is not your responsibility, but you should help them. You should ask them the right questions. So now for your test environment, two important things, guys, very important. And functionally stable version of the application should be deployed. Remember, functionally stable. Now if the application functionality is not working, there is no point in doing the performance testing of that. Okay, so a stable version of the application which is working functionally, okay, should be deployed on your performance test environment, first thing. Then the data present in that environment should be refreshed from production. Okay, if possible, request for masking of the data in performance test environment. Next, another important factor is server monitoring. Your performance test environment should have the monitoring tools in place. Okay, monitoring tools in place in order to monitor the servers during your performance tests, so that you will be able to gather the server stats also. Now if the project says that no, we do not have any monitoring tool, see, I'm telling you the challenges also, okay, in real project. Okay, when you are deployed in a project, what challenges you face? They will say we do not have any server monitoring tool. Then you ask them that the servers are based on which platform. If they do not have any commercial tool, ask them to set up pfmon in Windows servers. Ask them to set up nmon in Linux servers. Okay, so that is about server monitoring. And if they have any commercial application performance monitoring tool, it is well and good. Okay, if they have any, commercial tool, so in that case, also ask them to do that setup, and it should be deployed on the performance testing environment also, and you should have the access to gather the monitoring details. Okay, now if you do not have the access, then in that case you have to request them to provide you the access, or if they cannot give the access to you, then you have to request them to provide the monitoring results from the test execution. Clear, all of you? Then your performance test environment is set up, your test plan is ready, okay, and then your application is deployed, you have the monitoring tools in place. Now you would have thought that, okay, I'll go with this tool. Now if your customer already has the commercial tools, you should always try with those tools first, if you are able to record the events in the application or not. So test tool feasibility is nothing, but you are determining that what is the protocol of the application which you are going to test, and if your tool which you have thought of is going to support that, is compatible with that application or not. Clear, all of you? So in this test tool feasibility analysis, you will conduct that proof of concept and check whether your test tool, may it be JMeter, may it be LoadRunner, may it be new load, etc., are they compatible with the application or not, whatever is available in your project. Okay, if you have been asked to do the test or implement JMeter, you have to first check with JMeter. Okay, so over here you determine what is the application protocol. Now if you face any challenges, you need to get in touch with the development team to understand what is the protocol based on which the client communicates with the server, or what is the technology stack based on which the application is developed. Okay, these are the things. In case of any challenges, you will discuss with the development team. Clear, all of you guys? So I'll take a pause here because there are other important topics which I will cover in the next session. So we are, like, discussing the performance testing basics first, and so let me go to the curriculum. So here we have already our objective is that we'll go through the performance testing first, basics, and then we'll dive into JMeter. So in the next two sessions, I think I'll be able to complete the life cycle. So all these things here. Introduction we saw, what is performance testing we discussed, why performance is required. So I'll come to the types of performance testing in this performance testing life cycle only, and what are the different activities we are now discussing. I'm also telling you what are the common challenges in each phase. So we are now in the test plan and design, then we'll go to test execution, test reporting and all. So in the next two sessions, we'll complete about the testing life cycle. Then we are going to start JMeter. Hope you all are enjoying the sessions. So I'll stop for today. Thank you. Thank you all for attending.
Please share recording.